On May 4, 2000, British citizen Lucy Blackman, who was 21 years old, went to Tokyo with her best friend Louise Phillips. At such a young age, the young lady had already managed to accumulate a lot of debts before Lucy worked as a stewardess in the British Airways, and Lucy was a charming tall blonde. She came to Tokyo with the purpose of having fun, to get acquainted with an unfamiliar culture, and to earn money to pay the debt of £6,000. Soon after arriving, Lucy and Louise found work at a club in Tokyo's Roppongi. But even though Lucy had a European appearance, she did not have a large number of customers. Although the girl still lacked experience, management decided to send her out on mandatory dates with customers, perhaps too soon after their arrival. On Saturday, July 1, the next date occurred. Lucy did not tell Louise who she was leaving with, but only mentioned that it was an acquaintance with whom she was already in contact. She promised to be back by evening. On Sunday, Louise began to worry that Lucy hadn't shown up, even though she had called a friend and said she would be there in an hour. She asked the girls at the club who Lucy had left with, but none of them knew the answer. On Monday, Louise went to the police to report her friend missing. She said that Lucy had not returned after a regular date because it was dangerous to talk about their activities, even though they were in the country as tourists. Phillips would be in a new sect for at least a week, as Lucy Blackman relayed a message via a phone call from a male stranger. When Louise went outside, she received a call from a man identifying himself as Lucy Blackman and claiming to be calling on an errand. Louise then visited the British consulate, where she met with Vice Consul Ian Ferguson, who knew exactly why European girls were coming to Japan. She had to give some details about hostess work, although she didn't need much false detail. Louise felt the need to do whatever was necessary to pay back her debt, which required a lot of effort. Convinced that if she worked diligently, she could save up the required amount faster, she made the decision to ask Lucy for help. However, in a creepy accent, the speaking stranger said it was impossible, and Louise would never see her friend again. Upon returning to the consulate, Louise was advised to contact the police to find out what had happened. She realized that this was the only right thing to do. Louise decided to unpleasantly surprise her mother Lucy by calling her and relaying important information. It was decided within the Blackman family that one of them should go to Tokyo to help in the search. At first, Sophie offered to help, but Jane strongly forbade her to go there alone. Thus, Tim agreed to go on the trip. In July, Tokyo hosted the G8 summit, where British Prime Minister Tony Blair was present. Journalists wasted no time and soon dug up information about the girls' activities, their arrival in Japan, and their place of residence. However, no one was able to find out anything about the mysterious client. Tim Blackman, meeting a politician, decided to share Lucy's story and received a promise to help her search from Tony Blair and his Japanese counterpart Yoshiro Mori. Hundreds of police officers involved in solving the Lucy Blackman case had already taken up the case by September. Thousands of flyers with the missing girl's details have been put up in towns and cities to help in the search. Meanwhile, Sophie and Tim, who appear to be in Tokyo, are keeping up their public activity, which continues to support the investigation. However, one very interesting call from another English woman comes into the police station. She says that a few years ago, she was a hostess in Tokyo, and a regular client kept urging her to come to his home on the coast. She finally agreed and went to visit him, but after drinking alcohol, she passed out. Upon awakening, she knew for certain that the man who had accompanied her had abused her. However, she was hesitant to contact the police. As time went on, the calls began to come in with the same content. All callers talked about a trip to a luxury apartment complex on the coast and finally losing consciousness. According to the description, the client was rich and stylishly dressed. Interestingly, after Tim's visit to the British Embassy, the police magically discovered a plethora of funds and resources to investigate. Consistently analyzing information from the female victims, the investigation came to Joji Obaru, a 48-year-old Tokyo resident who led a quiet and secretive life. In August 1952, Joji Obara, whose real name was Kim Seong-jong, was born in Osaka. Initially, his family was known by another name because they were Korean immigrants. How Kim's father was able to create a fortune for himself, there are several versions. There are those who talk about his earnings from taxi transportation, and there are also claims that real estate and construction helped. Certainly, Jung's family was not in difficult financial conditions, which allowed the boy to get an education at a prestigious private school. And eventually, Kim entered the elite Tokyo University, where he studied politics and law. The first thing that demands attention is the mystery that still surrounds Obara's profession. Some claim that he was just carelessly spending the money he inherited from his father. Others, however, claim that he was initially left with almost no funds, wrongfully incurring debts and getting out of scams, even associating with the Yakuza to carry out illegal financial transactions. However, after these incidents, Obara went into business and enriched himself again. Personally, I get the impression that he may have used part of his inheritance for similar scams, but lived more modestly on the remainder. Given Obara's lifestyle and character, it is rather doubtful that he actually undertook any business endeavors. Obara's apartments were searched in October. Numerous interesting finds were made by the police that reveal various aspects of his personality, but also compromise him. Chloroform and special drugs known as sex drugs, which have an intoxicating effect, were found in alcohol. In addition, a diary and many videotapes were found. Female fans from Europe were particularly favored by Joji, and he viewed them as a symbol of his status. Host clubs, including the Casablanca Club, were visited by him to look for potential future victims. The police were very inactive in pursuing the case despite the clear evidence against Obara. Perhaps Joji's explanation satisfied them that he did not know or see Lucy, although this was not true. After 4 months of investigation, the detectives finally decided to investigate the neighborhood of the suspect's house. Surprisingly, after a week-long search using GPR and specially trained dogs, forensic investigators discovered a small cave just a few hundred meters from the house. In this cave, a bag containing body parts and a pair of cotton gloves was found. Later, several more bags of remains were found. In addition, separate from all the remains, a shaved head was found embedded in concrete. The Blackman family got the sad news of the gruesome find through news reports, while journalists were already rushing to the cave to find out the details closer. Forensic results confirmed that the remains found were solely Lucy's, as tooth impressions matched her dental records. Residues of the drug used by the victims of Obara were found in her mouth. The male suspect was forced to start his speech, but suddenly he was reminded that Lucy had visited him, but he refused to plead guilty to her death. According to Joji, the girl was a strange drug addict, which incidentally was noticed. However, the police this time were able to do their job and solve the case. It turned out that around the same period of time that Blackman disappeared, Obara had acquired various household appliances, such as a chainsaw, plastic bags, and quick-drying cement. In 2008, the Tokyo High Court decided to find Obara guilty of all charges related to Blackman's death and sentenced him to life imprisonment. However, Obara decided to appeal the sentence to the Supreme Court of Japan, but his appeal was rejected and the sentence was upheld.